welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Della Maddalena versus Prates. So without further ado, let's get to our first card, our first fight of the card. Not our first card of the fight, but our first fight of the card. So we scroll on down. First fight we have in the lightweight division, we got Steele versus Domar Fan or Domar Fan. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence. Steele to beat Domar Fan. Yeah, I just feel like Steele's been training with the right team. I do feel like he's a little bit more lethal of a striker. It's not like Domar Fan is like a striking specialist. I think he's a grappler too. I think Steele is the better grappler of the two. Stronger, packs on power, etc., etc. I think he'll be able to control the scrambles, control positions, and land the heavier strikes. I do think this is a competitive scrap. I just think Steele is more athletic. I think he's been training well with Arm Monster Ukraine and stuff, getting some rolls in with there, and looking good at it. So it's not like he's going here with a guy with solid takedown defense and solid striking. He's going with a guy that's a grappler, just like him, grappler first, and Domar Fan. And I don't really see a particularly high, a particular edge in striking. Maybe pacing, but he's not really a power puncher, not really a technical striker per se, or like a, so again, it's like a grappler versus grappler. And I think it's a stylistic matchup that should favor Steele, or at least should give him a better chance in the last fight. And also a guy that does have a lot of experience, but does not have a lot of experience in the UFC. Again, not like his last opponent. So I think it's a better stylistic matchup for him. And I think he gets it, I'm not going to say he gets it done. I do think he wins. I think it was a decision victory here. Again, I think overall he's a better fighter. I think this is a better stylistic matchup for him than his last fight. And also I think he'll have improved and learned from his last fight. So in this one, I got Steele via decision. Now to the next fight, we have in the welterweight division, we got Jonathan Micallef versus Thimba Gorimbo. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Jonathan Micallef to beat Thimba Gorimbo. Just don't like the momentum that Gorimbo's on right now. He's like on a 2-fight losing streak. Micallef's on a winning streak. I think Micallef's a more technical grappler here. Gorimbo might be a slightly better wrestler. Probably packs more power. Well, does he pack more power? Well, I say better wrestler, probably better striker. But I think Micallef's the better overall package. I think he's tougher. I think he's more durable. I think he's stronger. I think he's a better submission grappler. And I think he'll be able to push a better pace here. I think Gorimbo could be looking good early. But I feel like in was that his one fight by Luque, he got dropped and subbed early. The other fight, he lost a decision. Like he got worked down the stretch. And I feel like that's a bigger issue than his loss by getting clubbed and subbed by Luque. Not to say Luque's a bad fighter at all, but I'm saying getting caught and subbed is one thing, but getting outworked, that's what you train to do. You train to be in the best shape so that you can be the guy outworking another guy. Like, getting caught, whether it was perfectly set up, was lucky, whatever you want to call it, which it was not luck by any means, it was skill. Yeah, that's one thing, but getting outworked, that's something you should, at this level, never be letting it happen to you. Especially a guy that's older than you, too. Letting an older guy outwork you. And that's what happened in Gorimbo's last fight. He got outworked. And Micallef is a guy that's not going to be the prettiest, but he's going to outwork you. I think he can outwork and put the volume on Gorimbo. Be some sloppy, be a little bit rough, but he's going to grind. He's going to put his full intensity into it. And I can see Micallef catching Gorimbo on the feet, or Micallef overwhelming Gorimbo with his pacing, getting the fight to the ground, and then smothering Gorimbo on top and submitting him. And I'm going to say like late second round submission for Jonathan Micallef. So in this one, I got Jonathan Micallef via second round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, we got Wes Schultz versus Ben Johnston. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Wes Schultz to beat Ben Johnston. And I really just feel like they're kind of similar level of striking. Similar stylistic fighters. I'll give Ben Johnston a slight striking edge. But I think Wes Schultz has a significant wrestling. I don't say grappling, but wrestling in particular, he has a significant wrestling edge. I feel like Johnston's wrestling defense has looked pretty questionable. But again, these fighters can always make adjustments and improvements. But let me slow down. But from what I've seen, I feel like his wrestling, particularly defensively, is very questionable. And I can see Wes Schultz exploiting that wrestling defense, or lack thereof wrestling defense. And level of opposition, Wes Schultz has fought better competition. Ben Johnston probably trains with better competition. But as far as fighting, yeah, Wes Schultz has fought much better competition. And I think that's more key. And yeah, striking could even out a little bit. West Schultz be a little awkward, but effective at it. But Ben Johnson probably having the edge in striking. But West Schultz having the edge in wrestling, what I think will be the keyest edge, will be to get a takedown. And ultimately from the takedown, he'll be to work his grappling. I think he'll get a mid to late second round submission over Ben Johnston. So in this one, I got West Schultz via second round submission. Now to the next fight we have in the bantamweight division, we got Cody Thicknesse versus Vince Morales. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'll go low confidence Cody Thicknesse to beat Vince Morales. And yes, a couple reasons like they're in Cody Thicknesse neck of the woods, so that's one factor. Vince Morales has been looking good in losses, but at the end of the day, looking good in losses. And yeah, keyword losses, not in losses. Looking good, like keyword is not looking good in losses. It's losses. So he's been losing. Like I said, he's been coming up short. I don't particularly feel like he's some amazing striker. He definitely has a lot more experience than Thicknesse. He's definitely a crafty, credible veteran and whatnot. But I don't feel like his pacing as far as his striking is all that high at this point in his career. I feel like Thicknesse can outwork him on the feet, value him on the feet, push the pace. Thicknesse has underrated grappling as well. I'm not saying that Thicknesse has to go to the ground. I feel like that's where Morales will have his best opportunity. Maybe try and attack submissions off his back. But on the feet, really, I feel like Morales has not really been. Morales has really not been showing me much on the feet in these UFC fights. In his second stint, or what is it, his third or second stint? I feel like I've been seeing solid submission attempts against Rowston Jr. and not Lance Gibson Jr., but what's the other junior? This is another junior but yeah, the other junior, but whatever it is. In these fights, he's been looking good in the grappling department, but his striking has not been looking particularly any standout. Like I said, he looked credible, he looked competent on the feet, but he hasn't posed any big threat on the feet since he's been back in the UFC, in my opinion. It's been submission threats. That's about it. He's tough, he's game, he'll be there all around, but the main threat, if anything, has been on the ground. So I feel like Thicknesse has underrated striking, can push a higher pace, and I think he can mix up on the ground as well. Thicknesse, I think his first martial art was BJJ. He's been doing BJJ since he was like 4 years old or something, like 10 years old. I think I've seen some YouTube videos of him grappling with another former UFC fighter. Not a standout, but I think back when he was like 14, that guy was like 23, and he, I think, submitted him, I believe. But yeah, Thicknesse been doing BJJ a long time. Not to say he's some BJJ god or anything like that, or some BJJ prodigy by any means. But he's savvy at the point department too. So I think he can more than hold his own with Morales. I'll work him, slightly edge him in all departments or enough, and get his hand raised in a decision victory over Vince Morales. And Morales, once again, losing a close decision. So in this one, I got Cody Thicknesse via decision. Now for the next fight, we have in the middleweight division, we got Jacob Malkoun versus Meerschaert. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'll go average confidence, Jacob Malkoun to beat Meerschaert. And I think Malkoun's the better striker here. The younger fighter, less mileage. I think he's continuing to improve. I feel like Meerschaert has plateaued or declined. You know, he's always live for a little upset here, but I think Malkoun should be able to shut down all of Meerschaert's takedowns. Malkoun should be able to get takedowns at a pretty good clip on Meerschaert. And once he gets down, he should be able to be on top, land heavy ground and pound, break Meerschaert down, and get him out of there. I'm looking at like I forget what I said, like second or third round TKO. I'll lean second round TKO. I think Malkoun should be the better striker here, better wrestler here, and he's a solid grappler as well. So I think he'll be able to outstrike him. Choose when he wants to take him down and how he wants to take him down, what position he wants to be on top, and land the ground and pound, break Meerschaert down. There's heavy pressure with the striking, mixing the takedowns, heavy top pressure, dropping ground and pound, break Meerschaert down over the course of the fight, and then stop him late in the second round. So in this one, I got Jacob Malkoun via second round TKO. Now for our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Junior Tafa versus Kevin Christian. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'll go low confidence Junior Tafa to beat Kevin Christian. And Kevin Christian's a long, lanky fighter. Got some submission skills as well, but he does not really have good offensive takedowns. And Junior Tafa has underrated takedown defense. And he looked really good, in my opinion, in the losing effort in his last fight against Elliott, who I was pretty high on, and I'm still pretty high on. I don't know if he's going to win his next fight or not, but I'm still pretty high on him as far as A guy that could probably stick around in the UFC. Not to say he's going to be challenging for no belt or nothing, or be a top 5 guy, but a guy that might be a top 15 for some time and could develop maybe top 10. And, he had Elliott hurt several times in that fight. He defended several takedowns, so he looked good in that fight. In a losing effort up until he didn't look good. And Kevin Christian does not really have the takedown, the wrestling of Elliott, the offensive wrestling. And even his BJJ is not even that good either. So I feel like Junior Tafa can address the grappling of Kevin Christian. He's a sharper striker, and Kevin Christian got a really small head on the top of that long body. And I can see Junior Tafa touching that small head atop that scarecrow, or whatever I'm trying to say, atop of that slender man. Yeah, that small head attached to that slender man body, and putting Kevin Christian on stilts, on skates, and putting him out early to mid first round via TKO. So in this one, I got a Junior Tafa via first round TKO. Now for the next fight, we have in the middleweight division, we got Cam Rowston versus Robert Bryczek. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Cam Rowston to beat Robert Bryczek. And really Robert Bryczek just has a puncher chance, but why it's not average but low, or why it is low and not average, is because I do not like some of the defensive tendencies of Rowston, and sometimes I don't like the way he reacts once he's hit. And at the day, it's MMA. They have small gloves. And unless you got like an iron chin or something like that, and you got questionable defense on top of that, or questionable defensive reactions, or a combination of all the above, stuff could easily go left. And but yeah, it's that punch chance and it's the defense of Rowston at times. But other than that, I think Rowston's a much better fighter. Like, if knockout was on the table, this probably be like a higher lock. I'm not gonna say lock. It's not even without the knockout. Still not a lock. Maybe high. Maybe a good average. I'll say probably like a high average. I wouldn't even say high. I wouldn't say lock. I definitely wouldn't say lock. I wouldn't say high. Like a real good average. But yeah. Right now it's a real good low. That's what I say. It's not average. It's a real good low confidence. But yeah, Cam Rowston, Robert Bryczek. I think he's the better striker. I think he's the better grappler. I think he has the better fight IQ. Defense just to do some work. But other than that, barring the knockout, I think Cam Rowston should be able to outstrike him, outpace him, extend him beyond the first round, dig into him, break him down, club and sub him late second round, and pick him apart, break him down, and sub him late in the second round. So in this one, I got Cam Rowston via second round submission. Now to the next fight we have in the heavyweight division, we got Tuivasa versus Louis Sutherland. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Tuivasa to beat Louis Sutherland. If Tuivasa wasn't looking so bad, it's probably like an average or high confidence pick, but has not been looking the best. But it's a fight he should win. He's fighting another striker. Sutherland really ain't got much offensive grappling. And it's not like Tuivasa's wrestling defense is that bad, unless he's going there with an actual grappler, then it looks particularly bad. But against a guy that's primarily a striker from the UK, journeyman, winless in the UFC, yeah, I'm not worried so much about Sutherland's grappling. But I'm still not going to average confidence. Yeah, I'm still not going to average confidence. At the end of the day, it's still a heavyweight fight. And stuff could be sloppy, this be that. But yeah, striking battle. Tuivasa getting a striker. Tuivasa's the better striker. And I still think, he has enough left in the tank to beat a guy like Sutherland, of the skill level of Sutherland. And should be the much better, much sharper striker, the heavier hitter, the more accurate guy, the faster guy. And I see him sparking Sutherland in the first round, early to mid first round, TKO for Tuivasa here. So in this one, I got Tuivasa via first round TKO. Now to the next fight we have in the heavyweight division, we got Gaziev versus Pericic. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Gaziev to beat Pericic. Yeah, Pericic has been looking good, but I can't really back him here as he has literally fought nobody. I don't think anybody he has fought has even had a single win in the UFC. He fought another guy that they brought in, with him that neither of them had any UFC experience. They both were 0-0 in the UFC. He got to win over that guy. That guy didn't really have no great. Matter of fact, the guy had no relevant competition prior, and similar for Pericic, no real relevant competition. And then I think he fought Sutherland. Did he not fight Sutherland, I believe? Yeah, he fought Sutherland and sparked Sutherland. But again, Sutherland, has some relevant competition as far as PFL level. But yeah, another guy that had no wins in the UFC was like already 0-1 in the UFC. Now they got 0-2. Sutherland is. Where Shamil Gaziev has fought some of the better guys in the division. He fought Rosenstruck. He fought Walter Cortez Acosta. I'm not mentioning his losses, but he's fought guys that have had wins in the UFC. He's fought guys that have had hot streaks. Walter Cortez Acosta has the hottest streak in the heavyweight division at the moment. So he hasn't been fighting bums. He's been fighting the best guys in the division, or some of the best guys in the division, past and present. And this is a level competition. I feel like Gaziev is the better grappler. I feel like he's the better striker, or at least as far as experience-wise, based off experience, he has showed his striking at a higher level and has had decent to great success. And I think Shamil Gaziev will be able to strike him. And also, where I think he'll beat him is I think he'll be able to beat him in the clinch, impose his size, impose his will on him, back Pericic up with power shots, get him against the cage, drive knees into his stomach and his abdomen, elbow him, break him down over the course of the fight. And I say early to mid second round TKO for Shamil Gaziev here. So in this one, I got Shamil Gaziev via second round TKO. Now the next fight we have in the flyweight division, we got Tim Elliott versus Steve Erceg. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go average confidence Steve Erceg to beat Tim Elliott. And Elliott's a solid fighter. He's on a good little streak here. But stylistically, I think this is a good fight for Erceg. It's not like Erceg has wrestling, particularly wrestling issue. He does. I think he'll be able to address the grappling of Elliott. The wrestling, he'll be able to definitely be able to address the grappling of Elliott for sure. And he'll also be able to address the wrestling of Elliott. I just think Erceg is the better striker, more technically the better striker, and power-wise the more dangerous striker. The guy that has the power, more power on feet, and the sharper strikes. Elliott's kind of loosey-goosey, off the wall, and wonky with it. But Erceg has the sharper down the middle, down the pipe strikes. And again, I think he'll be able to address the grappling. And I think he'll be able to land the sharper strikes consistently throughout this fight. And I think he'll be able to beat Elliott by decision. Also, I don't think he'll be so scared to mix up the grappling as well with Elliott. And I think even there, he'll be able to have success and, prevail there as well. Because it's a mixed martial fight. Maybe pure BJJ, pure wrestling, yeah, Elliott. But when you make an MMA fight, and you got to set up your takedowns off the strikes a lot of times, that will allow Erceg to be working behind his more technical strikes, more fundamental striking game, and then set up the takedowns with his striking and get the top positions and win the fight. Dictate the fight with his striking, set up the takedowns, control the tempo, win the fight, and I think it's a good stylistic matchup for Steve Erceg to win, and I do think he wins, and I think he wins by decision. So in this one, I got Steve Erceg via decision. Now to our co-main event, we have in the lightweight division, we got Beneil Dariush versus Quillian Salkilld. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Quillian Salkilld to beat Beneil Dariush. And I'll get to the point. Beneil Dariush, if he's not coded, and this fight allowed to, if he's not coded, knocked out cold early, I think. I'm not saying I think he's going to win if he doesn't, but I do feel like he's a much harder fighter to beat if that's not the case. Either way, I'm picking Salkilld, but if he's not sparked early, this fight becomes a lot more difficult because Beneil Dariush is one of the most technical fighters in the UFC, period, when he's on and when he's allowed to settle in the fight. He's one of the most technical guys. Real high-level BJJ, solid wrestling well, solid striking. Got power as well. Like I say, he's a very lethal guy when you allow him to settle into the fight. And recently, or at least in the past, even during this bad period in his career, he still managed to slip in a win over, a legitimate win over Mateusz Gamrot, a legitimate win, and a very clear win over Renato Moicano, who just upset another bright contender in his last fight. And also, Moicano, prior to that fight, ran through, Moicano, prior to that fight, he ran through Benoit Saint-Denis. So the fact that Dariush was able to do that, Dariush got coated by Saint-Denis, but again, you see how he could beat people that beat him. Well, beat people that beat him, if it's the right way to say it. So when he's on, he can be very hard to beat and can beat a lot of people in this division. But I think Salkilld, motivated by being in his backyard, I think he has the striking ability. I think he has the power. He has skill to kind of do a similar performance to what Hernandez did when Hernandez, what am I saying, debuted in the UFC. And that is put the press on Dariush early. Don't allow him to settle in. He's a slow starter. Press him early. And Salkilld has the skill, the ability, and he has the power and the finish upside to be able to put Dariush out of there early. Press him early, get him out of there early. I'm going to say early, mid, first round TKO for Quillian Salkilld. Not allowing Dariush to get settled into the fight. Putting the press on him early and getting him out of there early before he can settle into the fight. So, in this one, I got Quillian Salkilld via first round TKO. Now to our main event, we have in the welterweight division, we got Jack Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prates. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Jack Della Maddalena to beat Carlos Prates. And definitely a very, very dangerous fight. But yeah, I think underdogs have been doing very well this year. Very well this year. Jack Della Maddalena is last I checked, the dog. He might shift and then Prates is going to win. But either way, that's just one little superstitious to it. Like, underdogs have been doing well. I think only about 2 or 3 favorites won this year out of like 10, 11 cards. So it's been main events have been heavily favoring the underdogs. They're in Jack Della Maddalena's backyard. Jack Della Maddalena is kind of being slept on a little bit here, or maybe a lot of it, just based off losing to one of the ghosts of the sport in Islam Micallef. So when you really think about that shit, he really be slept on because he lost to one of the last. Like somebody, I lost to John Jones. Like, oh, you're trash. Like, I lost to John Jones. He's literally the GOAT. You lost to GSP, you trash. I mean, GSP literally walked away GOAT. Mighty Mountain. Like, you lost to one of the ghosts of the sport in their prime. And also, I think he went into an injury, so he had a lot of different factors there. And also, it's not like Prates is going to be able to wrestle him or even try to wrestle him or would even have success doing that. You know, if he wants to do that, he can go ahead. It's just going to probably tire himself out doing that. And it's just going to be a striking battle. Prates definitely has the power. I think he has more tools on the feet. He's lethal. But I think Jack Della Maddalena will have the grappling upside. I'm not going to say he's going to use it to a great extent, but I think it's going to be enough that's going to give him a different look, and I think he'll be able to get success. And might, at the very least, be able to use it to edge around. Again, give him a different look for Prates to think about. Might be enough to edge around or two for Della Maddalena, mixing the takedown, mixing the clinch, working the clinch, maybe try to sneak a little elbow in there, then go try a level change, go for the double leg, attack it, then maybe switch to the single or whatever. You know, just mix it up a little bit. Then on the feet, in a striking battle, Jack Della Maddalena I do think he has the quicker hands. I think he has he throws that higher value, has the better combination. So I think he'll be the busier striker on the feet. And with the volume and the pace, that can make Prates a little bit hesitant. He has a guy with big power, good combinations, present for it, mixing up the striking and working the body. So working levels with the striking and with the levels mixing in the takedowns or threatening the takedowns. Gonna get something for Prates to think about. It's gonna take him time to settle into the fight, and Della Maddalena mixing it up so well, it's gonna cause Prates to take longer to try to settle into the fight, longer to try to get his timing, longer to try to find his tempo, his range, and the shots he's looking for. And that's gonna put him behind the ball, similar to the Ian Gary fight. I'm not gonna say perfectly similar, but broadly speaking similar, like getting put behind the 8 ball because the opponent is mixing up so well. But unlike Gary, Jack Della Maddalena ain't really going to be on his bike as much. They're different fighters. Yeah, that's more dangerous for Jack Della Maddalena, but I think he's up for it. And also I think Jack Della Maddalena is going to be very hungry and eager to put that last fight behind him, that last embarrassment behind him, and show all the wrinkles that he didn't show in the last fight and new wrinkles he probably learned in the training camp for this fight, growing as a fighter in spite of losses. And I see this going to full 25. Obviously, it could go different ways. It most likely probably going to not go the distance, but I'm predicting Jack Della Maddalena to mix it up, push a higher pace, push a higher tempo, throw more strikes, land more strikes, mixing takedowns to limit his success, but it's not going to be so much the takedowns themselves or the takedown. It's the implications. It's the different look. And that's going to allow Jack Della Maddalena to freeze Prates' output up a bit and only cause his output to be more successful and flourish. So yeah, I see Jack Della Maddalena winning decision. So in this one, I got Jack Della Maddalena via decision. And so that concludes my fight predictions for the full card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Della Maddalena versus Prates. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.